Do you have any funny stories with your time with Nirvana or with Kurt Cobain in particular?
Well, yeah, I mean, probably the weirdest, funniest story about Nirvana, and sometimes I forget to tell this, is one day I had a loft downtown on 2nd Avenue, right next door to the Sub Pop offices. And one day I got a call from Bruce Papp. He's like, Chris and Kurt are here, and they've got this thing that they want you to photograph. And I'm like, right now? I'm like, yeah, it's this cat that they have, and they have to come over right now. And I'm like, well, okay, send them over. So they come upstairs, and I grab my Nikon and put a roll of film in it. And they've got this kitten, this black kitten. And they're like, oh, if you do this thing with its eyes, it's so hilarious. And we want to do that for a single cover or something. So if you can get in there and get this picture, and we'll do this, and it makes this face. And I'm like, okay. And we try with this poor kitten. They try and do this thing for like 15 minutes. Finally, I'm like, guys, done. We're over here. Like, fucking lay off the bong, all right? Like, just leave, you know? This is pretty early on, you know, and I really didn't quite know them yet. Like, so, yeah, they had a lot of ideas like that.
So what happened to the kitten?
Oh, no, I mean, they didn't, we weren't abusing it or anything. And they were, you know, it was just like, oh, okay, I don't know. One night they were sitting around stoned or whatever, and this kitten made a face, and then they wanted to recreate that for, you know, this is before you had smartphones, you know, kind of thing. So they wanted me to try and of course, whatever it was, they could not get it to do it. I have a whole roll of film of this kitten with its eye, and they're like, no, that's not it. It has to be I'm like, all right, you guys are done.
Have you ever published those photos anywhere?
No, it would be funny to do it. They're not very good photos. It just, you know, they don't, without the story, they don't mean anything.
I hear you. Do you have the photos on you by any chance?
I'd have to dig, yeah.
Hey, no worries. So, where was that kitten from?
I think it was Kurt's girlfriends at the time or something, yeah.
When they walked in, what was your impression?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think they'd driven it all the way up from Tacoma or something, too, so, on a cat carrier.
They drove up from Tacoma to Seattle just to get the photos of that cat?
Well, they were doing business at Sub Pop, and then I don't know.
So what did you tell Bruce at the end of that, when you didn't get the photo they wanted?
It's like, that didn't work out, you know.
Do you remember what year that was in?
It must have been, I want to say, it must have been 89, 90 maybe. 89, probably late 89.
So, okay. So Bleach was released, I think, June 15th.
Bleach had already been out.
Okay, cool. In general, what were the guys like? Because I heard that Chris in particular was actually a big jokester. Do you have any funny stories?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Chris was, Chris definitely liked pranks and was just, first time I met Chris Novoselic, was out at Bob Whitaker, one of his tour manager's cabin out on the Washington coast. And we were all down on the beach at night having a fire, and all of a sudden this big tall guy shows up with like no clothes on, runs down, jumps through the fire, and runs off screaming down the beach. And I'm like, what the hell? And Bob's like, it's Chris Novoselic. He's the bass player in Nirvana. Well, I'm like, okay.
And did this happen before you actually saw him?
Yeah, this must have been before. Let's see. Yeah, I can't remember what we were doing out there. So I may have seen them. I'd seen them, but I hadn't actually met Chris. So it's like, yeah.
This is a bit personal, so if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. When, Kurt passed, how did that affect you personally?
Yeah, I mean, of course his death touched me. I mean, that was really like, it affected all of us that knew him or had been, I mean, I'd seen him 2 weeks previously just on the street, and it was, very deeply affecting. I went to the private memorial for him. I didn't go to the one at the Seattle Center across the street. So, and it's, I mean, I think we've all kind of, for a while, we didn't want to talk about it or process it or, and then as time went by, you just get more comfortable, and it's just,
From an outsider's perspective, like someone who wasn't in the scene, I've always been curious, when Nirvana blew up, what was the reaction from you guys, and how did that affect the scene?
Yeah, when Nirvana blew up, it was kind of a little bit weird at times and disconcerting because suddenly, this sort of music scene that had been sort of ever growing the bubble, from a really small core contingent of musicians and fans. Suddenly it just didn't belong to us anymore. It was just, dudes that saw them on Saturday Night Live. And so, and then everybody wanted a piece of it, coming into town, and the bands like Nirvana would often just not even be in town. So we had to kind of deal with all these people coming in wanting a piece of it because they were out touring, doing their thing. It just changed. It wasn't as much fun anymore at a certain point.
So retroactively, would you guys have wished that it stayed small?
No. I mean, definitely not, because it was too. I mean, it was a way of making a living. I mean, everyone. I mean, I didn't, but everyone got to buy houses for the most part. I mean, it was like, okay, yeah, we also get. It's always fame. I think is always a double-edged sword, and the responsibility of being an artist and whatnot. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be selling fine art prints today and talking to you, and I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, it's good that it. I mean, I think we all deep down wish that the trajectory of fame and notoriety wasn't through tragic deaths of individuals in the scene that still continue to happen. So to this day, there's that aspect. Yeah, I mean, it would rather just have become famous because of the music and the fun and the image and all that, versus because of martyrdom and death.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you guys from the veterans of that scene, do you guys ever hang out and just kind of reminisce about old times?
Every once in a while, I mean, particularly when there's an event, maybe at Mopop or what used to be EMP, and certain shows or reunions and whatnot. I mean, I don't go out as much as say some of them do. I just don't. Unless I'm working, I don't really enjoy going out to late shows.
And, totally to each their own.
Yeah. I mean, it just, I did it.
Yeah, no worries, man. So
I'm a general. I can do what I want now.
Exactly. You earned that right. So, going back to shows, you mentioned that when you first saw Nirvana, it was at a Sub Pop showcase. From what I understand, Sub Pop would do these showcases every once in a while, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that was Sub Pop. The way Sub Pop evolved and became what it is because Bruce and John understood branding. And so, yeah, I mean, the Vogue Tavern, it was like 200 people, hole in the wall. But he started doing shows there, and he called it Sub Pop Sundays. This is back in like 86, 87, Sub Pop Sundays. So bands like Soundgarden, the Screaming Life EP cover that I shot was there on a Sunday night. Sunday nights were typically dead, but here, so Bruce made it special by featuring his bands and other bands that came through town, affiliated with them. So, and then that went on from there. And then they had the Lame Fests, and then they had, and now they're doing the big anniversary festivals, the SP30 a couple of years ago with, 50,000, 75,000 people out in Alki. So yeah, I mean, all the record covers were made to look similar with a lot of them, the singles, especially in the singles club, a photo or a piece of artwork with a band of type, Franklin Extra Gothic Bold. So it was, we understood, and he understood, older scenes and record labels and how that, Motown Stax and how that sort of operates, Sun Records, and how they had their roster and their look, and that's, that was one of the keys to success.
So cool. And you were one of the keys in terms of creating the image.
And that was, he saw my photography early on with Green River and was like, oh dude, yeah, we have to just collaborate on this. And
so would you say it's fair to state that you had a big hand in creating the aesthetic of grunge?
I mean, I guess I would say that. I mean, it would have it would have had its own look out once it moved outside of the circle if I wasn't photographing it. But I guess they say that my photos, made people interested in like, what the hell's going on over there, and so I had a distinct look that I was after, and so I guess I helped shape it.
Was there any one photo that you're most proud of taking?
Yeah, that's a really hard question, but I mean, there's the big stage diver. It's actually behind you there. And that is a photo for the ages. That's probably my most iconic image that I've taken. So that was at a Nirvana show.
Yeah, and you said that in that photo, Tad is in there, and some of the guys from Mudhoney as well.
Yeah, you can see Mark Arm in there, and I don't know if Tad's in there or not. Probably somewhere, but a lot of people recognize themselves. I'd been photographing this bands in the Seattle music scene before Nirvana showed up. So Sub Pop became interested in them, and then I went out and photographed a gig, and then went and did some promo shots, and then it was just kind of history from there. We just became involved because I was the go-to photographer in the scene at the time.
Yeah. And how did you get there? Because I mean, you worked with Mudhoney, Soundgarden, pretty much everyone in the scene, more or less. How did you get in that position?
Because they were my friends, and I was a photographer, and I was interested in photographing them, and we were just all sort of doing it together. I mean, it was a small scene, so we had no intentions of becoming famous, but it just worked out that way.
So cool. Was there any one band in particular that you enjoyed photographing the most?
I would say Mudhoney, are always one of the funnest, yeah. Mudhoney, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. I mean, these days, Pearl Jam, like the big stadium shows are pretty fun.
How does it feel comparing, like, back in the day when you guys were in the clubs to the stadium shows?
It's a whole different set of tools because, the club, you're crammed into a small space and right in front of the band. So at a stadium show, I mean, you're restricted to certain places, and there's this huge gulf between audience and band. So yeah, you have to use longer lenses, sometimes much wider lenses, find different perspectives. Pearl Jam shows are great because they're like 2.5, 3 hours long. So you get a lot of opportunities to run around if shoot.
Was Pearl Jam always like that? Like they had the longer shows even when they were in the smaller clubs?
Yeah, I think they always played pretty long shows. Yeah, I didn't see them much in clubs early on, so I kind of picked up with them more when they were already starting to play big.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together, so if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.
So you do have that one very famous picture of him at Reading where he's doing that jump in the air and he's got his feet kicked back a little bit. Do you remember taking that photo?
Yeah, I mean, I remember most of them. I mean, sometimes you don't know you got something until later on you got the film back. My favorite photo from that gig is the one where he's just standing there looking straight at me. And it was just, because he just sort of turned and was like, in between a song, and was like, "Hey guys," I was sitting next to Mark Arm, and he's just, "Everything okay?" Kind of thing, and we were like, "Yeah, go play, man," But it's a really, it's a beautiful kind of intimate, endearing shot.
100%, yeah. So you mentioned now that you were with Mark Arm on the side of the Reading stage.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was there from Seattle to witness that? Do you remember?
Mark was playing in Mudhoney earlier in the day, so it was pretty much all Seattle lineup. Mark and Mark Lanigan and Screaming Trees and the Melvins, Bill Seven, and I can't remember who else.
Yeah. And what was their reaction to the Reading Nirvana's performance?
Everybody's blown away by it.
How was that experience in general, the Reading Nirvana experience?
Reading was just a little bit overwhelming, honestly. I mean, when you go and you look at a list of the photographers in the press tent, and it's 96, So, and everybody gets their 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever out in the pit. I mean, Nirvana pulled me on stage, so I was up on stage the whole time for their show. But for some of the other bands, you just get a few minutes. And it was just so, I had never really experienced anything quite like that before. And all the sea of sea of scraggly kids and mud, and yeah, it was crazy.
Did you talk to the band prior to the show? Do you know how they were feeling about it?
I didn't see. I actually didn't run into them before the show. It was just Alex, their tour manager, pulled me up on stage, and then there was Kurt in his wheelchair, and we said hi. But yeah, I didn't see them.
Did you know he was going to come out in that wheelchair?
I didn't know that. No. So there he was with Everett True pushing him out.
And what was your reaction to seeing that?
I was like, okay, what's going on here? And then Everett kind of explained the joke, and I took a few. Really, it was very dark, but I got a few pictures because of the rumors of drug abuse and blah blah blah, and the baby and the not. Was the whole thing behind the joke of him coming out in the wheelchair. So there were those expectations of like, can Nirvana pull off a show this size? And are they, is Kurt strong enough? And blah blah blah. So yeah. I think, just those of us who were there were like, oh, this is great. We're lucky to be here, and this is amazing. And yeah, I've never seen anything like this.
So after the show, what did you guys end up doing?
Oh, we went back to the Ramada Inn and got really, really drunk and closed the hotel bar down. And it was just absolutely really insane. Yeah. Like everybody collapsing in hotel rooms and wandering in hallways. And
who was that? Do you remember?
Oh, just my friend Steve Mack from That Petrol Emotion, and just Bob Whitaker, of course, up to his shenanigans. Lenny's tour manager.
With a show that incredible, was it hard to stay focused on the job?
I think sometimes the where I didn't stay focused on the job was before and after the shows. I should have taken more like sort of backstage and whatnot stuff, but I was also a little bit of an alcoholic at the time. So, it was either one hand and it was like hard to juggle a camera and a drink, so yeah.
No worries. So, was there any one particular song or moment from that show that sticks out to you?
Definitely when they did Smells Like Teen Spirit and the whole audience was sing along with the chorus, or, Come As You Are. And sing along. Yeah, it was really about the audience singing along with the band.
So when did you get to develop those photos you took from the radio show?
Probably about 2 weeks later, I'd say. Yeah.
And when you saw them, were you happy with what you got?
Yeah. It was a dark show, so I was a little bit concerned, but I was happy with what I got. Yeah.
So when you're in front of a huge crowd like that, is it often you get those intimate little moments when you're in front of so many people?
It's hard. Yeah, I try and look for those, but it can be difficult to get like sort of intimate moments. Yeah, you have to know that sometimes the most important shots are not the shots in between the shots. It's not when doing the thing at the microphone. If you're always concentrate like this close up of the microphone and the singer, you're just losing all the rest of it. So sometimes it's about the audience, sometimes it's about the space that they're in. And wide angle can be as intimate as telephoto. You just have to, have that sensitivity, I guess.
Yeah. So, these shows, the grunge shows that you're famous for, they were chaotic. Did you ever get hit by somebody when you were trying to take a photo?
Yeah, I got my flash knocked off a few times. I had plastic shoes, so it would get ripped off. And I had to threaten a bouncer now and then with a camera. Let go of that kid, man. But it was just good fun.
Just going back to Nirvana for a second, their live shows were legendary, for various reasons. Do you remember by any chance, like, the first show you saw of theirs where you was like, "Boy, this is a great band"?
That first or second show I saw at the University of Washington ballroom, and it was just, yeah. But, really seeing them later on, seeing them at Reading in front of 45,000 people, that's really when it cemented, like, wow, they can command like this massive stage and this sea of people, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is some serious shit here. Yeah,
I myself, I've done a little bit of concert photography as well. I've done mostly concert videography, but it's more or less kind of the same vibe. And sometimes you're enjoying the show, and you're taking the photos, you're taking the videos, and you want to stay focused on the performance, but you're actually enjoying the performance at the same time. For you, has it ever happened where like you kind of got lost in the moment enjoying the show instead of actually taking the photographs that you intended?
Oh yeah, no, I mean certainly, you know, there even a 45-minute show or even a 20-minute show sometimes can be long if you can't, especially back in the film days. I mean, film was precious, so you weren't photographing like the entire show. So, yeah. But yeah, you had to be careful that you didn't get too lost and not be on to miss the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, and that, and I think that's also what made my photography somewhat unique is that, I'd say 75% of the time, I'm not really even looking through the viewfinder. So, I moved to the music. I got into the front. I wanted to make it, and it feel like you felt the experience of being at one of these shows and what it was like. And so, if I was just to go out there and stand rigid and try and do the perfect shot, it just wasn't going to work out that way. So it's really it was about being loose and looking for new angles and just, kind of like just what the music was doing. You
were shooting analog because there's no digital at the time. How did you, if you weren't looking at the viewfinder, how did you know if it was in focus what you were taking?
Well, if you're using wider angle lenses, you have depth of field, so it'll flash, so it'll come into play, and you kind of pre-focus. You're 4 feet away, so you set it at 4 feet, and I can pretty much shoot from anywhere here, and with a 24 millimeter at f/5.6, it's going to be in focus. I still do that. I mean, that's still how I operate with photographing my kids or whatever. With a Leica, I just shoot because otherwise you're just.
It takes the fun out of it a little bit, right?
Well, it's not even fun. It's the magic. It's kind of sort of. But I know my gear so well that I know what that angle is going to do.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come. From speaking with you last time, I remember you sharing with me that over time, you and Kurt became friends. When did your friendship with him start to develop?
We just respected what each other did and were kind of part of the scene. We were good acquaintances. And, we just liked what each other did. We were both a little shy. So sometimes kind of repelled like magnets do, two magnets. But, and then of course he was, living elsewhere and traveling the world. And it was also, he had a, serious drug problem that I did not want to be a part of. So it was hard for anybody to be friends with him in a way, with that going on. But, he I have a camera that he gave me to figure out, a 3D realist camera on the wall over here. And
is it that black one over there in the corner?
In that stereo, in that leather case right there. And, I have people that want to buy that as the Tibetan flags rolled up behind it. That one there.
Wow. When did he give that to you?
Well, he wanted me to figure it out about 3-4 months before he died. He just loaned it, say, hey, can you figure out how to put film through this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I think I might be able to. It was an old process at that point.
Wow.
And then, of course, so.
Did you, ever figure it out?
No, yeah. I was not really that interested, so, personally. Yeah. And the lighter in front of it, Eddie Vedder gave that to me.
Let me see.
The camera lighter in the front there.
That mini camera is a lighter?
Yeah. That was Eddie Vedder's.
If I may ask, can you show me some of these stills you have here?
Sure.
So what is exactly here?
This is just old stuff that I'm photographing or scanning. My scanner broke, unfortunately, but scanning for.
Is this from the scene, like the grunge?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, this is all grunge stuff. Oh, yeah. Here's Eddie Vedder, hanging at the Drop in the Park, that big show.
Oh, cool. And that's the blown up version right there.
Yeah.
And if I may ask, what is the purpose of having these laid out like this?
What?
What is the purpose of having them laid out like this column?
When you're in a dark room, you would take darker be red light or orange light, of course, and you would take a blank piece of paper. You would lay your negative over it like that, shine a light on it, and you would then develop it, and you would get yourself a proof sheet. So then the proof sheet shows you each individual frame, and then from there you would choose one to go print.
That's so cool. Do people ever want to just purchase the proof sheets as is?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
That's so cool. Because the proof sheets themselves, it's kind of its own art form.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the succession of images.
Yeah, and 100%.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's kind of like a modern camera roll, but like in a laid out version.
No, this is kind of a wreck right now. But what I'm doing is going through and just picking out images, and I'm probably going to have 1,000 pictures that I need to boil down to 200 or 250 for the next book.
Well, you got to get some of those cat photos in the next book.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
No worries. What's in this pile over here?
That's just some work prints from the next step once you scan is then to make small prints that I will edit from. There's Eddie in Boston.
How recently was this?
That was 2018.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any of your wedding photos in here?
There's what I just Kurt and Everett at the hotel room or at the hotel lobby.
This is during Reading?
Yeah, afterwards.
Oh, wow.
Everyone was getting hammered. It's Tad in London.
That's a great photo.
There's Nirvana out in the field.
That's so cool.
Shoot. Green River. Soundgarden.
Do you ever get nostalgic looking at these photos?
No. Sometimes. Just... I still have to sort of just look at them objectively so often that, I can't... sometimes I'm looking through stuff that's not...
Is that Albini?
That is Steve Albini.
Really?
The last Big Black show, yeah. That's Mark Arm. Kurt was at that.
Yeah, Steve actually told me that he met Kurt it might have been this show, at a Big Black show when at the end of the show, Kurt asked for a part of his broken guitar. That's Nirvana again, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.
From what I understand, your first impression of the band live wasn't the greatest. What was that? What happened there?
Well, yeah, the first time I saw Nirvana was at the Vogue, and they were Blood Circus was playing. It was a Sunday night. Blood Circus were great, really, and Blood Circus actually played first, and then Nirvana were after. And I just was not the lighting was dark, and Kurt just kind of stood there frozen, and and it just I just didn't see it. They just weren't in that same. Didn't have that same thing going on that Mudhoney and Soundgarden and whatnot had.
Is there any particular Nirvana song that is your favorite?
Favorite Nirvana song? I'm really partial to the Love Buzz single, even though it's, a cover. That really kind of just spoke to that first, discovery of them and throwing parties and putting on that Love Buzz, and it was just wow. And everyone would go nuts. So, yeah, that first Bleach, definitely. School and Blue and all those are
That's so
great.
cool. So I guess that first show that you saw Nirvana, was that before you heard the Love Buzz single, the studio version of it?
Was that... No, I think I'd heard it, or maybe I'd heard a demo. They had, at the local radio station, KCMU, the college station, they had what were called pots, which were these just sort of almost like a 8-track cartridge that bands could put a song on, or 2 songs, and you would stick this pot in this machine. It's a really old school technology, but they had a couple pots of Nirvana songs there. One was Floyd the Barber, and the other one was Love Buzz. So I remember hearing those on the radio first when I was at my job in a dark room working away one night. And I'm like, yeah, those are kind of different, you know?
Yeah.
Especially that Love Buzz is catchy, so yeah.
So that was that a local favorite here in the scene?
Yeah, definitely.
Really?
Yeah. The next show that I saw them at the University of Washington hub, and there I was photographing them, and they just, you know, totally blew my mind. So, you know, they had a new drummer, they had Chad, and they had, they just were like performers at that point. I don't know, you know, there was just this 6 months time that they just, yeah, maybe it was the venue or the new songs or whatever, but yeah, they were incredible.
So when did you guys first start to notice that Nirvana, like, I mean, by Teen Spirit, obviously they had blown up, but what were the first signs that they looked like they were going to become, you know, a big band?
You know, I mean, it just, of all the bands, it seemed kind of inevitable. And then Sonic Youth, like, introduced them to Geffen, and it was like, oh, this big signing with Geffen is like, oh, wow, they're going to sell 100,000 records, you know, that's going to be crazy. Yeah. I mean, you just can't predict that kind of stuff. So it just either happens or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And Kurt just had that right sense of personality to kind of represent the whole umbrella of grunge, I think, in a way, you know, the look and I mean, you just couldn't really take a bad photograph of the guy, you know, and he had that, just tapped into that with his own angst, tapped into the sort of the angst of the teenage nation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did
you ever talk to any of the grunge bands about their views on electronic music and what they thought about it?
Electronic music and grunge. Yeah, you know, I was actually heavily into electronic music. I mean, it kind of came through my love of rap from the early 80s onward. So, but it wasn't among the core musicians and fans of the scene. It wasn't received very fondly. It was like, oh, you just push some buttons. That's not really playing music, blah, blah, blah. And I think for most of those people, that view is, I'm sure, changed. And I mean, the interesting thing is that, like, Mark Arm and I from Mudhoney, like, we were sitting around listening to Brian Eno, you know, in the early 80s. I mean, we always listened to a lot of different kind of music. There are a few of us that were always into, Bruce Pavitt was one. He was a huge reggae head. I was a huge reggae head. And so we always explored different kinds of music, but some of the more like tried and true, like especially in the garage rock kind of scene, just didn't want to have anything to do with electronic. I listened to so many different kinds of music. I listen to very little rock and roll these days, actually. So it is mostly what I listen to is electronic or krautrock from back in the 70s and 80s. Neoclassical I've been listening to a lot of, and just straight up classical. Jazz, I listen to a lot of classic jazz. So I become a bit of a hi-fi enthusiast. So you sort of also start, wow, sound, like, it's amazing. It's not just all about angst and energy and stuff. There's actually really wonderful sounds that make your head go all wonky. So
then you just mentioned, you know, life's not all about angst and that sort of thing. If Nirvana, let's say, hadn't, this is speculation, but if Nirvana hadn't ended, do you think they would have gone in a different direction eventually musically?
I mean, I think they would have ended at some point, and probably all gone on their different ways, you know. Who knows? I mean, that's just it could be Kurt Cobain could have rediscovered krautrock as well and making motor rhythms these days, you know, like Bitchin' Bajas or whoever, like, I mean, long instrumental. So who knows what he could have ended up doing. I mean, or he could still be just playing, you know, straight up punk garage kind of melodic stuff that he was doing.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe for more. All the videos on this channel are original. I'm the one conducting all the interviews and editing all the videos together. So if you guys like what you see and you want to support, the best way to do so is honestly just to subscribe. Lots more to come.